are there. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Laura. Good.
Hello.
Hello.
So
Hello.
I'm not going to say good evening or good morning because Laura is in Los Angeles. It's in the morning, and Heidi is in the same time zone as mine, although she's in South Africa and I'm in Spain. So a very international call. So today we continue the series of the TransPerfect Media podcast with the art of dubbing, and this session will be about English dubbing. So we have Heidi Rolfe and Laura Chatterjee. So ladies, I'm going to let you introduce yourself quickly, and after we start the discussion. So Heidi, do you want to start?
Okay, sure. I'm Heidi. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa, the southern point of Africa. If I had to introduce myself, I've been working in the production industry in Africa for the past 25 years in script writing, post production, producing, directing, and eventually found my way into the TransPerfect family. And
Great.
now, and now I manage the dubbing studios in Cape Town. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Laura?
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Chatterjee. I am in Los Angeles, California. I've been working in the production industry. It's going to be about, I'd say about 10 years now. And I've been here for quite some time as well. And I manage the studio here in Los Angeles with all the celebrities around in nearby Hollywood. We're located not far from Hollywood. And I'm very excited to be here.
Great. Thank you very much. So we have two experts in the dubbing, and we are going to talk about English dubbing in particular today. So just wanted to, as an introduction, just wanted to remind everybody that in fact the dubbing started in Hollywood in the late 30s, when the American production like Warner, MGM, Universal, they wanted to sell movies to the French and the Germans. At this time, end of the 30s, before the Second War, it was mid 30s. It was the two powers that were interested in movies were the French and the Germans. So the first movie were actually dubbed in French and German in Hollywood. As you can imagine, at this time, with a very primitive technology, I would say, and without a pull-off actor like you have now, obviously the dubbing were not very good. So the French and the German, after two or three movies, said, "Okay, thank you very much. We take it from here," and and the American didn't do dubbing for years, 70 years or something like that, and it started just a few years ago because of the emergence of the platform. The interesting thing is the German had a very classic way of doing dubbing, and the French immediately adopted the rhythm band system. And I don't know how many people do we have online who know the rhythm band, but the rhythm band is a fantastic French invention that is right now in use in its digital version. And we'll talk a little bit more about the rhythm band later on, because our own platform that you guys are using also for dubbing is obviously integrated with a rhythm band. So we have the opportunity to talk a little bit after that. So that was a brief introduction to. I thought it was interesting to say that because the state started the process but stopped immediately.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world continued. And it's, I would say, like 5, 6, 7 years that the Americans started to do dubbing. Same thing for South Africa, probably, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not sure. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that, Heidi. And so for me, US has always been, I mean, it's still now an emerging country in dubbing. We'll talk about South Africa later. I would like you to just start by telling me a little bit about both studios that you are managing. So one in South Africa and one in Los Angeles. So Heidi, we can start with you, and you can explain to us very quickly what is the facility and the languages you do, because you don't do only English, if I understand correctly.
Yes, South Africa is quite an interesting region. We're very linguistically very diverse. We have 11 official languages in our country, so we love languages. And the biggest languages in our country is Afrikaans, which is my first language, and English, because we were a British colony, so majority of South Africans can speak English. And then we have some beautiful vernacular languages like isiZulu and isiXhosa. There's about 60 million people in South Africa, just to give you a little insight into our region.
Yes.
Of which about 30 million speak and understand Zulu, and then a very, very large number, I would say about 2/3 speak and understand English, and most of our schooling is also done in English. So it's linguistically very diverse. And then also because, Jacques, you've been to Cape Town. Laura, I don't know if you've been to Cape Town.
Not yet.
Actually, this month we were voted the best city in the world, just so you know.
Great. It's
yes. Yeah, so we have a lot of tourists coming, but also a lot of people relocating from Europe and the US and the UK who come and live in South Africa because it's a beautiful country and affordable. And so we have access to quite an interesting pool of actors, languages, and accents. So we dub into English, Afrikaans, Zulu, a couple of other smaller vernacular languages, but then also into languages like French and German. That's the kind of languages we do. And then the facility, we have a lovely warehouse full of studios. I think we have 8 recording studios and 8 other final mix studios. We also do subtitling, translation, script work. Yes, what else can I tell you?
And we are installing a 5.1 mixing room.
Yes, we're very excited. Yes, we're working on our 5.1 final mix room. Yeah, and the services we provide, like I said, is dubbing, translation, subtitling, etc., etc.
Great. I forgot to mention that, but for the people who are not understanding, we are the 3 of us in the same company, obviously.
Yes.
So that's why I know what's going on in South Africa and also in Los Angeles. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about what's going on in LA.
Well,
besides the fires, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, this was quite an event. But despite the fires, we are located midtown in LA. Our studio is quite a simple studio. It's only for recording at the moment. But we have an extensive pool of actors that have worked in a lot of different media that are well known. And we have a very close relationship with all these actors, directors, engineers that have worked in so many different productions. And we really focus on the English language. We only do English dubbing, which means that we kind of really cater to that market. And mainly we've been working with a lot of people from France, and they've been sending us a lot of their products to us to get it dubbed in English. And I'm actually originally from France as well, which helps, despite my last name. I'm from France, and I speak French fluently. I speak Portuguese, Spanish, so it does help. I love languages as well, so that helps a lot.
Well, if we are in this business, hopefully we love languages. If not, we should change. so, so most of the content you are dubbing in English is French to English.
We've had some content from other parts of the world. We've had Tagalog. We've had we have from the Netherlands as well. So we're doing mainly a lot of French, but we've done a lot of different languages as well. So we're not just doing.
Yeah, and I know you did very successfully some movies for Canal Plus lately. So that was a big achievement. Great. So, like I said earlier, for me, US has always been an emerging country in dubbing, and I remember the time where the movies, especially the one that we saw in France or in Italy, were just redone completely, and they were reshooting another movie. And I can tell you Birdcage, which was in France like Cage au Fall, big success. It was a theater play after it was a movie. And the Americans redid another movie with different actors, and but following exactly the same story. They did also Three Men and a Coffin. That was pretty funny. It was a French movie that was redone. Now they don't do that anymore. And now finally, the content is dubbed, because in the culture, I mean, Laura, you are in the States, and after we'll get Heidi point of view on that. It was not really in the culture of the American to watch subtitles, to listen different languages. They wanted to have it in English.
Yeah, they still do. It's ingrained in France specifically that the dubs are becoming a natural. I mean, they've always been a natural thing, in my opinion.
Yes, and following this idea, obviously the four historical country of dubbing are the FIGs: France, Italy, Germany, and Spain. Americans started to dub just a few years ago, and in fact, it was because the OTTs, the over-the-top platform like Amazon and Apple and Netflix, that the content, first of all, we had a lot of non-American content, which is a new concept, because before that, 95% of the content was American, or approximately. But now we start seeing on this platform a lot of different content, non-American content. So they need to be dubbed to be seen. Heidi, what's the story in South Africa, sorry, about English dubbing? Have you been? What is the system of dubbing in South Africa?
The dubbing industry was there was quite a lot of dubbing in South Africa in the 80s, but it was into our local languages. Correct. More. There wasn't English dubbing. And
but it was from English to African to Zulu.
Yeah. Our local broadcasters like broadcasting, and especially Afrikaans, one of the big languages in the country. But then dubbing kind of died out, and the viewer became used to consuming content in English. A majority of our content is in English, and has been for a long time. And we never really watched, content from other countries was, nouveau content. So you would have it at special cinemas and in short supply. But obviously, like you say, with the platforms, all of a sudden we get used to content of different regions. There are certain regions that the sense of humor really resonates well with South Africans. And you find things that you love in other regions of the world. Like we like British humor, but we also like the style of acting of, say, the Norwegian countries. So our palettes for global content is developing, if I can say that. But interestingly, in our region, our region prefers subtitling over dubbing when it comes to English. So dubbing in English is not something that we're used to, and I think our viewers are quite critical about English dubbing and would rather read a subtitle, right?
And this is very interesting because is it because of the nature of the actors there, the accents?
I think it's just because a dub has to be so good for
Correct.
it to not disturb the story. And I think in regions like Europe, where dubbing is now second nature, it's been developed for so many years. It's, you'll have those audiences say that sometimes the dubbed version is better than the original version. So dubbing, I would think, and so let's say the dubbing industry revived again in South Africa about 12, 14 years ago. So compared to how well Germany dubs, we're still learning a lot and becoming better every day, but learning a lot. So our audiences are, I would say South Africans are storytellers at heart and love stories and also very critical of what we consume. So, but I do think it's changing. For example, our Zulu communities, which is half of our population, can understand Zulu and would prefer to consume content in Zulu. They would watch a Zulu dub any day, even if it isn't a good dub, if I can say it like that. So our viewership is changing. But so when we dub in English, we predominantly do it for Europe. So that Europe is our market, who we dub for in English.
That's very interesting because most of the time when people have to choose between subtitle and dub, and as you said, as long as the dub is well done, naturally we would prefer a dub because I'm a good advocate of dubbing and subtitling, but honestly speaking, when you watch a movie and you have to read the subtitle at the same time, well, your attention is not in the movie. You have to read and watch at the same time. It's more complicated. So, but the problem is the dubbing has to be great because if the dubbing is not well done, that's complicated. And also the dubbing, when I do some conferences about dubbing, I always say you don't dub to a language, you dub to a culture, obviously. And so you have two aspects in the dubbing. And this is what the Americans are and the South Africans are learning about English dubbing. You have the technical aspect of it, how to use a microphone, how to be lip sync, how to do a great performance. But you also have the adaptation. And so dubbing to a culture with appropriating the local culture and adapting the movie in the local culture. And that is very difficult to do. When they talk about a French, if you have a French movie, they talk about a French politician, or they make a remark about a French actor. It happens in movies. What are you going to do in English? You have to adapt it, and most likely it will not be adapted the same way in South Africa or in America, because the culture,
localize it, right?
Correspondence is different.
So I find our local audience, what really makes them take to a dub, there are all these things like adaptation, lip sync, etc., etc. But I think it all boils down to the performance of the actor. And our audiences, my perception is you can get away with a lot of things, but if that actor's performance really gets you into the story, that's what make people watch a dub in our region. So it's the same as anything when you tell a story, you want to be drawn into it. So that's what I see in audiences in our region.
But would you say that the trend is getting a little bit more in the English dubbing, or you predict that you will have more product
Yeah,
dubbed in English?
I see an upward trend in our region, definitely into dubbing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the quality becoming better. People will obviously prefer good dubbing to subtitle, but it's just the
Yes,
nature of watching a movie.
and of
Um,
course, artificial tools are helping dubbing become, well, one day we won't be able to see a difference anymore. So
yeah,
there's
we'll talk about that later. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about that. Was great, Heidi. And by the way, I've been several times to Cape Town, and my son is doing a master in history, and is fascinated by the history of South Africa. I bought for him a bunch of books. Because this is such a complicated history. This country is really has an amazing history. From the Brits to now, you have so many variables, different situations. So I tell that to all our friends online. If you can, either way, get some books or Google a little bit the history of South Africa, it's an
yeah,
amazing story.
yeah.
Um,
Or
have
just come
you?
visit.
Yeah, or go to see Heidi.
Yeah.
Um, Laura, tell us a little bit about LA. So the situation obviously is a little bit simpler.
Well, you kind of went over the history, so I don't have to go, which is amazing. It's always good to know the origins, and always learning. So in our case, like you were mentioning, yes, it is a new emerging media. Is in the culture in U.S. culture, it's not really something that's part of it yet, but it's becoming. And like you said, the quality is what people are looking for, right? That's what will make them watch a dub, and they're very critical on that. So any particular dubs that are not the not well done, or like some acting, it needs to be kind of tweaked, they will see it. So that's why we're trying to improve, and we're trying to always find ways to reach that quality, to be able to attract more audience, at least in our at least here. That's our goal, is quality. um
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. And the challenge to that is, because it's a newer media, right? There's a lot of in my perception, everything counts. So the writing, the adaptation, the director, the actors, who you pick to work on the project,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
And that's what's gonna the casting, all of it. So that's what kind of, to me, that's what makes it a good dub, right? And it's very challenging, because you have to take in consideration everybody's background, how what are their experience, what languages they speak, what do they feel, how, so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered in order to reach that level. So however, I would like to add that the French methodology of creating and the workflow is really good, and it's a process that the US is digesting and starting to understand slowly, I think. And but which is what Jacques was referring to the rhythmo band. It's something that they're starting to get to understand what the benefits that it provides. It makes the studio time shorter. Actors don't have to focus on sync; they can focus on the acting with the rhythm band. Has so many benefits, And I worked in both. I worked in ADR and that, and there is a big advantage to that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remind everybody that, or I tell everybody that TransPerfect is adopting what we call the hybrid model, because Heidi is managing our studios in South Africa. Laura is managing our studios in Los Angeles. So these ladies are used to work in studios the classic way, but we also have our platform Studio Next, which is a remote system that most of the students of the academy, the Bing Academy, know very well, because all the assignments are done there. And this platform is using the Rhythm Band, so you can use it in the studio or you can use it remotely. And obviously, just for people to understand, the Rhythm Band is in fact the ancestor of the karaoke. Everybody knows karaoke, so that's it. Instead of having the text and a bar moving from word to word, here you have a bar and the line is moving against the bar, and you read and you speak as you read the bar. You cannot be simpler than that. And as Laura said, that improved the quality, because you are watching your screen and you don't have to move your head between your script like that and the screen, which creates some big variation of dynamic in the recording. As we said, we always fix it at the mix, but it's better to not fix it at the mix. So that's very interesting. I'm glad to see that these processes are getting understood by people. So let's talk about because you were both talking about the talent. So how big are the pool of talents? And Heidi, I'm asking you just about the English speakers, and after we'll compare with LA, just to have a rough idea to compare between the two countries.
So if I had to, it's always changing because people move around a lot.
Approximately, don't worry.
Our English bank is between 500 and 600 actors.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And Laura, for LA, probably more than that.
It depends on the type of content you're looking to do, what the client wants.
Overall,
well, it's not as much, but
really?
yeah, but the actors that work with us, let's just say they're a little bit more high caliber in the sense that they can do a lot.
But what's the size of the pool approximately? You have to choose from how many actors?
I'd say 200.
In LA, only 200 people?
Well, I mean, we work in the studio, right? But
no, I'm asking you about in general in LA.
That can grow. It always grows.
It's probably 1,000 actors, no, in LA?
Sure, yeah.
That's, I would say. So, I mean, it's pretty comparable. There is not a huge difference between LA and South Africa. Obviously, talking about strategic places where we can do this dubbing, and I'm going to start with Heidi. Do they do some English dubbing outside of Cape Town? Because Cape Town is, like you said, it's a city where you have a lot of American people that can speak English pretty well. But in Johannesburg, you don't have that, no?
Yeah, so we do dubbing. English dubbing is quite big in Johannesburg, which is our capital also. So I'm not first language English, but South Africans who are first language English, it's the actors can be trained close to a UK accent. So there's a lot of, because we were a British colony and there are a lot of British people still living here. The UK accent is we have a lot of it in our acting pool,
But obviously, when you dub if you dub for America, for the States, you will have some Native Americans doing the dub.
Yes, we do have Native Americans. The only reason why America would come to us, Cape Town, for a dub, because they have Laura, so they would first go to Laura. But There are some of our clients who can't afford American prices. So the exchange rate between Laura's buck and mine is about 18. So it's our exchange rate is very, what's the English word? It's very attractive.
Favorable.
Yeah.
Favorable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so very powerful. So that's the thing about dubbing. If dubbing had the budget of the original production, it would have had the quality of the original production, right? So many clients who want to localize don't have the original production budget to do it. They only have, depending on how big they are.
Yeah.
Most clients now want to localize their content, but they don't all have a large budget. And then the US accent that we produce in Southern Africa wouldn't be a perfect US accent, but it would be like maybe a fifth of the price. So there are some clients that in the US would say, okay, we'll take that.
Yeah,
You know?
and this is very important to understand because we live in a global society right now. You
Yeah.
know, what we call the mondialization, the globalization, if you want.
Yeah.
So we buy a Chinese car, Japanese car, German
Yeah.
cars anywhere in the world. So, well, in fact, the dubbing is going to follow the trend.
Of course.
The dubbing is not going to stay located in only one place. You will have some more alternatives. Obviously, English has a big advantage. Not everybody, but a lot of people speak English.
Yeah.
When I was working in my previous company at Warner, like everybody knows now, one time I was thinking, where should I do some Italian dubbing cheaper? Well, I didn't find any place. Only the Switzerland was speaking Italian, and it was much more expensive than Italy. So I didn't have much choice. German is the same thing, more complicated because outside of Germany, besides South Africa, well, it's complicated. So you have languages that cannot be exported, but English obviously is one of them.
Yes, I heard the other day that there's a studio in the Philippines that produce fantastic English dubs, and I was like, really? That's incredible. So English it's the power language of the globe still, and you can find it in all shapes and forms and different locations.
Cool. Let's. Do you have any idea about how big are the markets in your respective countries? I can tell you that because we did some podcast about that. In Nigeria, they produce 2,000 movies a year. Like in India, in America, they produce way less, but the return is much bigger because the price is not the same. So, do you have any idea about the size of the market in South Africa? How many movies are? Yeah.
Yeah, a very small industry. Local productions is a very small industry with very limited budgets. Um, it's nothing like Nigeria or India. We consume in our region, mostly consume international content. But we do a lot of great productions, but it's a very small industry.
Yeah, and I'm asking this question because I mean we all know what Hollywood is producing, but for South Africa it's interesting because the dubbing is also in any country, the dubbing is also dubbing in English, the local production. So for you, if you, I mean, we do some English dubbing for the Nigerians movie, from the Kenyans movie, because we have studios not only in South Africa but in West and East Africa. So this is interesting also to know because that is a potential dubbing. And if it's not happening now, it will happen soon because sooner or later, the local content will want to be exported and seen by other people, especially if local content is viewed on platform.
Yes,
more
I,
actors, obviously.
without naming platforms and productions, we have our most recent English dub was for one of the streaming platforms, and we dubbed a local production, the first of its language on this platform, into English. So you're right, it's definitely going to grow, but currently it's a very small industry. So that's when we work in English, we mostly work for Europe. Yeah, but like I say, our most recent one was in English for one of the large platforms, and it was a local production in one of our local languages that we dubbed into English for the platform with the original actors. That was quite an interesting project because usually the actors are it's a new cast, but for this production, the original actors that acted in the original production, they also dubbed their own voices into English. So
Great.
excited
So,
to see that.
so that's very good, and we did a few of those. And Laura, actually, in the movie we did for Canal Plus, had to dub
Okay.
the main actor who was recorded in English. She dubbed it in no, who was recording in French. Sorry, did the dubbing in English for this French movie. So, and yeah, you have a lot of not a lot, but a few examples like that. But
Did you like that result, Laura, of the same actor doing both languages?
So that's a very interesting question. Yes, I did. It also comes into the accent realm, the performance realm. It's really interesting to direct and to actually see them perform. And since they were actors on screen, they will know more. They'll be like, yeah, we did this because of that, and it becomes a very interesting experience because they'll be able to tell you stories about when they shot the movie and stuff. So it was it was really really good, I think.
Yeah, I also noted that for me it was visible that the actor had some emotional connection with the story already and the character, and it just
exactly.
Yeah.
Even though so the actors we worked with, their first language was Afrikaans, the original production language, and they dubbed into English, so the English would sound like mine. So the English is not perfect, but the performance of the character was so good because they were the character, you know.
Right.
So I must say it's one of the best dubs I really enjoy it. I would watch that English dub because
right. Yeah, and there's appropriate times for that too. And now with the dubbing like evolving with like accents and stuff, I think it's wonderful to be able to incorporate those as well in media and overall.
Yeah, your accents is becoming a thing, right? It's not. We are getting used to that a language is spoken in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, it was something that was actually told before. Like, yeah, if you have an accent, it's good. They are looking for something that's more accented, depending on the content. But.
And it was a French historical movie, so having a French accent in English is fine. I remember when I had to handle the dubbing of the movie from Clint Eastwood when I was at Warner, Letters from Hiroshima. So Letters from Hiroshima was in Japanese, only Japanese. And Clint Eastwood made a deal with AMC, the television channel, and so we had to dub in English. And when we started casting, Clint Eastwood told us, guys, don't look for American actors. Look for Japanese actors and make them dub in English, so they will have the Japanese accent, because you see only Japanese people in the movie. So, and I think it was a great idea. So we did that, and it was a little bit more challenging because the elocution have to be perfectly understandable. So, but it was not much more complicated than a normal dubbing, a little bit more, but that's it. And the result was great. And Clint was very happy. And so that's why Letter from Hiroshima in English has Japanese accent all over the place.
Yeah, and you get more immersed into the experience because of the story. So it makes sense. I think it's a great call too.
So we are like almost 45 minutes into the discussion. It goes pretty well. we can stay 5 hours, but we are going to start shortening that. So we have a few questions. And the first question is, the US has historically been more focused on subtitle and dubbing. Yes, obviously. What do you think is driving the shift forward dubbing in recent years? So, like, my personal opinion is that the platforms, when and I don't know if you agree with me, when the Netflix and Amazon started to have local content that needed to be seen in the States, well, people would prefer a dubbing than a subtitle, especially when you go to the cinema. You could argue that the subtitle, sometimes they are big, because sometimes you have subtitle in a theater, in a cinema. But on a TV, most of the time, the people are watching Netflix on an iPad, or even sometime on a telephone. So subtitles are getting a little bit more complicated to read. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's really the OTTs, that the over-the-top platform, that moved towards this dubbing. How do you think content localization is helping South Africa and the region in general? Well, Heidi, uh, I think this is generating some work that were not
Yeah.
done before.
I I also think that question. I like that question. It does create a lot of work in our region, a new
Exactly.
industry. But also, what I love about the localization industry growing in Africa, for me, localization has a level of offering someone the respect of communicating in their language. So I appreciate it when somebody attempts to speak to me in my own language. It has a lot of meaning to me, even if you just greet me. So offering other languages that are not, the great five languages, content in their own language, I think there's something very respectful in it, and it says that you are valuable, you're important, your language is awesome.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, and if the South Africans improve the quality of dubbing in English, they also will improve the quality of dubbing in all the languages.
mhm.
I remember I did a version of Harry Potter in Gaelic for Ireland. I did some movies in Catalan.
Yeah,
Uh, so it's always good to have some local languages
yeah,
represented for the local people.
yeah. It's
Um,
sort of acknowledging that we are all different, and that's a good thing. That's great. We offer your own language, your own individuality, your own culture. It's important to the world, not just
Absolutely.
yeah.
Following the same question, that was a long one. What are the most significant challenges in dubbing besides the technical aspect? Like we said, acting, localization to a culture, and this comes from the adaptation. So I always say that a good dubbing starts with a good adaptation. If the adaptation is not good, you can dub whatever you want. It's not going to sound good. That's pretty obvious, but most of the people forget that. Um, did the casting process for the being involved along the rise of new technology? Yes, I can say that the casting process is a little bit different now, because with the Ritmo band we can send actors some casting. We call that casting kits, casting examples, so they can do the casting in context. They can get a exact clip of the movie, and most of the time for casting we would take a clip when the character is calm, a clip when the character is shouting, let's say. If you have some different attitude in the movie, we'll try to represent all these different facets of the characters, and the casting can be much more precise, in sync, and you can see immediately if it's working or not. So yes, the platform help for the casting for sure. Uh, Next question: the US has historically, no, that's the same one. Um, How can I join the Dubbing Academy? Oh, thank you very much. We have a website, dubbingacademy.transperfect.com, or you can send me an email, Jacques J. Barreau at transperfect.com. And I will, I'm the founder of the Dubbing Academy, so it will be my pleasure to give you some information and to onboard you if you are interested. Do you have any funny or interesting anecdote for your dubbing session? Guys, up to you. So, Heidi and Laura, what do you have as a funny anecdotes? Shoot.
We do
I'm
have
curious.
one actor that I love. He comes in character whenever he comes in studio, and so I think this happens in normal productions also. So you have to meet and greet, and the character name and conversations over coffee will still be in character. And I love seeing the personalities bleed out of studio into normal life.
And that's a great idea, by the way. That's a great idea because he's already in the role. He's already in the character. Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's obviously it's so fun working with actors because and I see one of the questions is how can I be recruited into the dubbing world. I'm sure Jacques will tell us now, but yeah, the acting community is a very, very colorful, special community to work with.
Of course.
Personalities are interesting and big and loud and creative, and I think that's the fun part of dubbing.
Absolutely. Laura, tell us a little bit about the crazy LA people.
Well, actually, to be quite honest with you, every session's fun because we work with a lot of amazing, talented people, and like Heidi was saying, similarly, it's very colorful and warm. It's warm here. There's a warmth to the actors here. I actually love video games, and I found out during the session that particular actor had voiced one of my favorite video games, and I was like, why didn't you tell me? And he started voicing that character, and I kid you not, I was like, oh. Within the session, I was like, oh my god. And it became a recurrent joke. I was like, oh. And now that actor actually tells me, hey, I'm gonna go to that conference if you want to go, and invites me to all these kind of things.
Well, you have a new friend. That's
Oh
good.
yeah, and yeah, video games is I love video games. In that particular game, I kind of almost fainted when I found out he was in it. He didn't tell anybody. He just found out through social media. So they won't necessarily say it to you, but when you start digging and you start seeing, oh, they've done this. Oh, I love that here. You would never know who you work with, really.
That's great.
Yeah.
Another question about what career opportunity are available for students graduating from the Dubbing Academy in both the US and South Africa. So just a quick thing about the Dubbing Academy. The Dubbing Academy is offered, it's an online course that is offered in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French. So regardless where you are in the world, we at TransPerfect are also using a lot our remote recording platform Studio Next to record project. And you have the Ritmo band, and you are in the cloud, and you can have a director helping you. So it's really easy now to not have only actors in the city where the studios are. And so we have a democratization, delocalization of the dubbing community all over the world. So as long as you graduate in English, well, you could be hired on a project for South Africa or for LA, regardless where you are in the world. So as long as you graduated in English, you can do both projects. And that's very important to understand, because the students graduating from the dubbing academy are added to our database, and we give them regularly some roles. Obviously, when you finish the dubbing academy, you are not an experienced actor with 10 years of recording session behind you, but you start, and that's the concept of any job. You have to start somewhere. So you start, and little by little, you become experienced. And the last question, recruitment process, being part of the casting team, I just answered that. So, any final word, ladies? Conclusion of the story, moral of the story of dubbing in English? Heidi, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see where localization into English is going to go. Yeah, anything. I just love that a story can live, across so many countries in any language in the world. So very excited about dubbing in English, but also in all other languages. For example, we have 11 languages in our country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I say, for me, I love a story. It's the most powerful thing. And then a story in your own language, it's nothing like it. Yeah.
Correct.
Mother tongue. Yeah.
I agree. Laura?
Well, to me, it seems like things are rapidly moving. Things are ever changing, which is great because change is part of life. But I think it's changing, and a lot of people are kind of not sure about the change, but there is a positive to that. So I'm looking forward as well to see what kind of changes we're getting. And yeah, we're growing, so we love what we do, and it's always exciting to talk about it for sure.
And because, as a conclusion, I would say, because you guys are in an emerging market, at least for the English, we will redo the same podcast in 1 year and see where you are. And,
exactly.
And so we can compare. I'm Jacques Barreau. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening and for viewing. Heidi, thank you. Laura, thank you. Keep working, keep dubbing. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.